What's up? Oh, Monday morning. Monday. January 14th, 2019. Where are you at? What are you doing? Are you ready to rock and roll, ladies and gentlemen? Let's jump into today's AMXbooks. We are continuing to dive into the book American Wife by Taya Kyle. Dennis Maney, I was actually going to text you, Dennis, and say, where you been, man? Haven't seen you lately. Good to see you. Good to see you as always, Dred. Good to see all of you all. Give me 1 second to get this cranking, and then we're going to dive into this. Had a tremendous, and I don't know if I'm going to do a solo sode or what, but had a tremendous weekend hunting with my friends. Went to my cabin. You know, I think I will. I may actually do a solo sode on this. But, it was awesome. We went to my cabin, no electricity, no cell service, no nothing. It was pretty cool. And it snowed. And my buddy, Jimmy, cooked venison on an open fire when it was snowing. It was poetic. It was really awesome. But it was fun. So we are back here into the swing of things, about ready to jump into AMXbooks 656. 1, 2, 3. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the Spaniard Show. This is the Spaniard, and this is AMXbooks 656, spending another day with Taya Kyle's American Wife. And I was just telling Facebook Live, I had a great weekend hunting with my friends. It was so cool. I don't know if I'm going to do a solo sode to it or not, but it was just a really neat weekend at my cabin, which is a real cabin without houses and no electricity and no cell service and a lot of dirt and mice and stuff like that. It was awesome. That may sound odd, but it was a really neat experience, and I'm jived up to be back. 2 speaking events this week, so it's a good Monday morning. Let's dive into the book American Wife by Taya Kyle. And I wanted to bring this out from the book because it helps set your perspective and your understanding. And I think that just simply hearing and digesting what I'm about to say makes you more empathetic. A lot of times we think certain things, we say certain things, but we don't really know why, or we don't know the sacrifice that other people are giving up for us. So here's some of the realities of soldiers in combat from the book. Quote, the average day, and remember this is in Iraq, the average day is about 115 to 120 degrees. This is Chris writing a letter to Taya. So the average day is 115 to 120 degrees. The dust storms are kicking up. I had to make a new hole in my belt. Sometimes it feels like I'm in a human stew. It's hot enough to boil in your own sweat. It's hot enough to boil in your own sweat. Being in a human stew. So I did a tour for the troops in 2012, right after I fought Kyle Noak. And it was really neat, and I got to travel with some other UFC fighters and some really neat people. But what we did is we traveled the tip of Africa, and then we went through the Middle East, and we visited military bases. And we just talked, and we did jiu-jitsu, and we hung out, and we were a light in their day. And it was a really tremendous experience, but it opened me up to this idea. The average day is about 115 to 120 dust storms, human stew. Being in that heat, being in that blaring sunlight, it puts a different shade on everything, and it makes you realize, you know, when you're staying in the tents and you wake up in the tent and it's relatively, you know, it's temperate, it's temperate, and also it's either dark when you're sleeping or light when you, and then you open the door and this sunlight blasts you in the face. It's like going from sleeping to the most brightest light ever right in your eyeballs, which is the sun over this desert. It's absolutely, it's incredible to experience. And I want to throw this out there too, something you might not think of. The worst, and I'm going to say, and this is going to get a little grody, the worst case of diarrhea that I ever had. I don't know which country we were in, but it was in an outhouse in a country in the Middle East in this heat. So you just realize the day to day that these military men and women, that they experience, that is their life. And I truly believe that simply hearing and digesting what I'm talking about right now, what I'm reading from Taya Kyle's American Wife, simply hearing and digesting this makes you more empathetic. And as I talked about last week, the idea of empathy and the value of reading because it makes you more empathetic as a human, I think that's a great example right here. Now let's move on to talking about another issue that military men and women deal with as they transition out of the military into civilian life. So transition is one of the biggest issues facing military men and women when they get out. So when you're in the military, and this is either from reading about, hearing about, seeing firsthand, it's very regimented. You have a mission and you have a purpose, and you're at a certain place at a certain time, and you're doing a duty, and it's organized and structured, and everyone around you is contributing to that same purpose. When they get out of the military, it's like, whoa, what now? The mission and purpose that has been there forever is not there. It's similar to an athlete becoming a non-athlete. You deal with that same idea. So in the book, Taya is saying this, quote, "We don't talk enough about what happens to servicemen when they leave the military, especially men like Chris Kyle, who have seen a lot of action." So it's pretty coincidental. I'm nearly certain, yesterday I read on Facebook, so a guy named JP, who works with Jocko and is part of the Echelon Front team, he was just on the Hands in Daylight podcast with Pete Roberts, who's a creator of Origin, the founder of Origin. And I'm nearly certain I read something about the episode saying how JP went from being a highly successful sniper, Navy SEAL sniper, to getting out of the military and having menial jobs and not being able to find a purpose. So it's really pertinent then, now, and will be into the future. So the major focus of VSOs, and here's some terminology too, and I just learned this not too long ago, Veteran Service Organizations, VSO, Veteran Service Organization. Guys like Patrick Murphy, and this is information that if this episode is hitting you in the heart, or you think, man, I'd really like to learn more, I'd like to do something, I'd like to partake in some of these events and see if I can help as well. A guy like Patrick Murphy, who is a friend who was on my show, a former undersecretary of the U.S. Army, he's very active in military men and women transitions, from the military into civilian life. Team Red, White, and Blue, Team RWB. I'll be speaking at an event in February with them. It's the same idea, creating these interactive experiences to help kind of rekindle this connection and purpose to be in a better place. The IAVA, Iraq, Afghanistan Veterans of America, with Paul Rykoff, who was a sponsor of mine. These are just 3 resources that you can do a little bit more research on. And this is why I talk a lot about mission and purpose. This is why mission and purpose is so important. That you not just military men and women, but you and I'll give you, like, just going hunting this weekend and realizing all the things that I can learn about hunting and shooting and guns and archery, et cetera, and picking my dad's brain and picking my buddy's brain who know more about it. It gives you something valuable with which you can fill your mind. And I feel like this idea of mission and purpose, it applies to military men and women, but it also applies to me and you as well. And then lastly, this is a little bit of perspective. So Taya is talking about Chris, and she's talking in the context of the book, it's dealing about the stress and the strain on their relationship and his overall well-being. And listen to this. This is for perspective. Quote, "I think it didn't help that many people treated him like a show pony. People would befriend him, then want to show him off to others. He'd gone from being surrounded by guys who would die for him to phonies who were using him." So this is an example. What I wanted to present here. So he goes from being, around people with the same mission and purpose who would die for him to all of a sudden, like, hey, I know this guy over there. His name's Chris Kyle. Chris, come over here, talk to this guy. So the idea here, like, he'd gone from being in this position to that position, in the inner turmoil that it caused him, right? The stress and angst in his life. But so the next time you get mad or at someone or want to flip someone off, and as I was writing this down, I prepped this lesson last week, at the end of last week. As I was writing this down, I thought to myself, yeah, you, Charlie, you, listen. So it's for me as much or more than it is for you. The next time you get mad at someone or want to flip on someone or want to flip someone off, remind yourself that they may have other things going on in their life. You don't know what led to them being this way. Yeah, some people are just jerks, but consider that at least before you flip out, at least consider that, at least have that pause to consider what's going on in their life. This has been AMX Book 656. As always, I encourage you to check out charliespaniard.com. You'll see a list of my speaking programs. You'll see a link to my social media, my book list. And if you'd like to help to support the show for as little as $1 a month, you can visit patreon.com/charliespaniard. There you have it, folks. That's it. That's it. I hope you enjoyed the show. I'll be back tomorrow with AMX Books 657, and then the next day with 58. So if you're looking for a mission and a purpose, and you want to belong to something, I want you to belong to this. The Spaniard Show, AMX, lifelong learning, books, people, conversations, kids' books, you name it. We're bringing it to the show. See you.